In the headlines, Nigerian Railway Corporation declares 21 people missing in the bombing of a Kaduna-bound train as Governor Nasser El-Rufai threatens to bring in foreign mercenaries to fight terrorists in Kaduna State. Customs arrests suspected smuggler in police uniform. Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics threatens to resume strike action if federal government fails to meet its demands within 1 month. And on the foreign scene, United Nations Special Envoy says Yemen's warring parties have agreed to a 2-month truce starting Saturday. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. The news in full. The Nigerian Railway Corporation has declared 21 people missing in the bombing of a Kaduna-bound train. Giving an update on Saturday, Managing Director of the corporation, Engineer Fidet Okiria, confirmed that a total of 362 passengers boarded the ill-fated train. He said while 170 were safe, 21 were missing, but was however silent on the fate of the remaining 171. Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasser El-Rufai, has threatened to bring in foreign mercenaries to fight terrorists hibernating in forest areas around Kaduna State if the federal government under President Muhammadu Buhari fails to tackle terrorism head-on. El-Rufai, who spoke with journalists shortly after briefing the president on the recent killings in Kaduna State, including Monday's bomb explosion on the Abuja-Kaduna rail line, which claimed 9 lives with a yet-to-be-known number of people abducted, said state governors will have no choice but to take action to protect the lives and properties of their people. Daily Trust reports that the Nigerian government under former President Goodluck Jonathan was in 2015 accused of hiring mercenaries from South Africa to fight Boko Haram, even though the then federal government had denied the claim. However, El-Rufai said the president has assured him that action will be taken to bring an end to terrorism in the next few months, explained that the best way to tackle terrorism once and for all was for the Nigerian armed forces to bomb forest enclaves where terrorists are hibernating. The governor also made it clear that his administration will not pay ransom to secure the freedom of the abducted passengers, even though he said the terrorists are yet to make specific demands. Apart from the attacks faced by trains in recent times, another common challenge affecting the rail transport system is the vandalism on railway tracks and slippers. Abubakar Abdullahi visited some areas where these facilities have been vandalized and reports that it has become an issue that requires urgent attention. The report.
At a time the federal government is making efforts to revitalize the railway transport system across the country, some people whom many describe as saboteurs have continued to vandalize the rail tracks and sleepers. Nasarawa State, which before now is one of the routes train passes through to other parts of the country, has been cut off due to vandalism of the infrastructure. In some of the places visited, rail track sleepers were completely removed and parked to unknown destinations, while at other communities the facility has been removed and waiting to be evacuated by the vandals.
To be frank, we don't know how they are doing it because they came and operate here and we are living in this village. But we only wake up and discover that the tracks are removed. Like this one is about to be evacuated, but we don't know how it was done. I am calling on the vandals to stop this kind of attitude because it's not good. The facility is for the public benefit. With this attitude, yet to be unborn children might not know the existence of railway here. Government should take measures against the vandals.
Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps is among the leading security agencies fighting the menace of track vandalism. Public Relations Officer of the organization in the state said the organization is sparing no effort in the fight against railway vandalization, noting that several arrests have been made.
A lot of machineries have been put in place to curtail this menace in Nasarawa State. for the past few months, we have a lot of arrests. If you go to most of these areas where this railway track passes, I am telling you, it will break your heart, to see that government are investing heavily on this infrastructure. But at the end of the day, the bad eggs within us are sabotaging the efforts of the government.
At the National State Command of the NSCDC are intercepted vehicles loaded with tracks and slippers. The NSCDC PRO said investigations are ongoing on the items.
At least 3 persons have been killed and 20 others kidnapped at gunmen suspected to be terrorists invaded Ungwambulus in Chikun local government area of Kaduna State on Thursday. The attack is coming few days after the Abuja-Kaduna train attack, which many are yet to recover from. The report.
Chikun local government area of Kaduna State has been witnessing bandits' attack in recent times. The latest attack by suspected terrorists at Ungwambulus, a suburb of Sabum Tasha, left 3 persons killed and 20 others abducted, according to community sources. It was sorrow and tears as members of the community narrated their ordeal. The residents said it was the 4th time their community is coming under attack, with the latest sparking fear and confusion.
Since yesterday, you strengthened me since yesterday. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Mary Yakubu is a mother whose sick son was killed in the attack.
Before I know, the boy, Marawa, he's not feeling well. He just left me. From there, because they're there on the road here, when he ran inside, they just shoot him.
In fact, she even plugged water to bath. And when they took her, she left the water, the heater, and the water was boiling. It was when my husband came that he off the litter. So when he came back, he told me that it is like our daughter has been picked because there is no trace of her.
The residents believe that government has the capacity to address the incessant attacks in the state.
They shoot my friend, kill my friend, they shoot my other colleagues, kill my friend. I don't know how I will talk. I don't know which level. I'm very confused by them.
For now, most of the residents have fled their homes while appealing to government for more security presence in the community.
Men of the Nigerian police and customs in Katsina State seem to be locked in a crisis of identity of an alleged smuggler. The alleged smuggler, Jelani Sarajo Abdelkader, suspected to be a police officer, was apprehended by operatives of Katsina State area of the Nigerian customs in possession of 25 bags of foreign rice. At the time of the arrest, he was in possession of a police identity card. After parading the suspect, the customs operatives handed him over to police for further investigation, where the 2 sister agencies are trying to ascertain the suspect's true identity. Abdullahi Yamadi has more.
Briefing journalists earlier on the smuggler Jelani Srajo, suspected to be a police officer, the area controller of the Customs Service, DC Al-Hawada Chedi, said the suspect was apprehended in possession of contraband, armed with police ID card.
The suspect, a suspected police officer with 4 different types of ID cards, ranging from police ID card, 2 stars, Citizen for Peace and First Aid Mission of Nigeria, another ID card, Nigerian Association of Agri-Produce Dealers in partnership with Algon, another ID card, Iman, Federal Representative of Nigerian Task Force, Kaduna State.
Upon thorough investigation by the Kaduna State Police Command, it was discovered that the suspect is not a police officer, but an impersonator, and the police ID card in his possession is fake. The Kaduna State Police Command wondered why the Kaduna Area Command of the Nigeria Customs Service claimed in the press briefing that the suspect arrested by the Nigeria Customs operatives is a police officer without thorough investigation.
The Nigerian Customs Service, Katsina Area Command, handed over to the Katsina State Police Command one Suraju Jelani Abu Abdelkader.
The police said the leadership of the Katsina Area Command of the Nigeria Customs Service ought to have contacted the police on the issue before going to the press. Similarly, the police urged members of the public to disregard the publication and assured that the smuggler is not in any way a police officer and has since been transferred back to the customs office for prosecution. I am from Kaduna State. I used to come to Katsina to buy rice and go to Kaduna just to get something in possession of police ID card. I use this ID card as a means of identification. I present it anywhere I have any problem. Here I am, but I am not in any way a police officer. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
The Borno State Police Command says it has arrested 46 suspects for criminal offenses ranging from kidnapping, child trafficking, armed robbery, rape, and culpable homicide, among others. One of the suspects was arrested for trafficking a 3-year-old child, while another was arrested for raping a 92-year-old woman. The report.
The arrests were made in the first quarter of 2022 by the Maiduguri Police Command as part of efforts to curb crime in the state. The command also said it is investigating 25 criminal cases of kidnapping, criminal conspiracy, theft of firearm, and possession of dangerous weapons. The Borno Police Command Public Relations Officer Sani Kamilu said its patrol operatives recovered anti-aircraft ammunition, 4 RPGs, cash, 1 pump-action gun, and 517 live ammunition, among others.
Now a case of rape. On the 24th of March 2022 at about 13:00 hours, one Usman Haruna M. of Askira Uba, local government area of Borno State, reported at Askira Uba Division that one Zakaria Yahu of 46 years old of the same address forcefully had a carnal knowledge with one Wamdubu Bello F, 92 years old.
Among the 46 suspects, one Bilikisu Ali was nabbed for child trafficking, while one Clement Asuk was arrested for possession of arms and ammunition.
Me, I know that if I refuse this, is the community that are sending, Jola is the community that are sending me for it. If I refuse, I should know the implication of it, that the community will regard me as I'm standing with the enemy. If they could help me so that the soldier could also testify from there, if the government decides, by God's grace, they could say, okay, they should pay pardon on me.
I was under the influence of drugs. I took the white one called Arizol. I regret my action. I called on youth to stop intake of illegal drugs.
Wallahi ban sani ba. Ni ma na yi nadama abin da na yi ne. Eh? Na ce ni ma na yi nadama abin da na yi.
Tun yaushe kike wannan hali? I don't know what pushed me into this. I'm worried over what I did. I've never done it before. One man asked me to bring the baby to him so he will give to one barren woman. The police command said other criminals at large will also be apprehended, assuring that it will update the public after concluding its investigations.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbadzabiamila, has felicitated with Nigerian Muslims on the commencement of this year's Ramadan fast. The Speaker, in a statement signed by his Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Lanre Lasisi, urged Muslims to use the period to pray for peace and unity in the country. While calling on Muslims to observe the Ramadan fast in accordance with Islamic injunctions, the Speaker wishes Muslims a successful month of Ramadan and enjoined the citizens to unite against insecurity and other challenges in the country. You're watching Trust News Update. Coming up after the break. How cost of diesel cripples radio stations. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Trust News Update. Let's take a look at some of our top stories. You heard that Nigerian Railway Corporation declares 21 people missing in the bombing of a Kaduna-bound train as Governor Nasir El-Rufai threatens to bring in foreign mercenaries to fight terrorists in Kaduna State. You also heard that Customs arrests suspected smuggler in police uniform in Katsina State. Moving on to more news, no fewer than 13 people have been confirmed dead in a road accident involving a trailer truck in Jigawa State. The police public relations officer in the state, Lawang Adam, who disclosed this in a statement on Friday, said the incident left 32 others injured. He explained that the truck marked TAR 357XA, Jigawa State, was loaded with about 53 passengers as well as scores of cows and goats. The vehicle, driven by a 28-year-old man identified as Babangida Muhammad, was on its way to Lagos from Megatari local government area of Jigawa before the incident occurred. However, the police could not ascertain the identities of the remaining 3 victims. Adam explained that a team of police personnel swiftly arrived at the scene to rescue the injured victims, who were taken to the general hospital in Ringim. He added that 4 others, Adamu Gagare, Ado Habu, Rabi Ibrahim and Arma Idris, were referred to Rashid Shekoni Teaching Hospital in Dutse for further treatment. In his reaction, the Commissioner of Police in Jigawa, Aliyu Tafida, condoled with the victims of the deceased and prayed for the recovery of the injured victims. He urged motorists to avoid overspeeding, overtaking, overloading, and receiving phone calls while driving. Tafida further stressed the need for them to check their tires, brakes, and other essential parts of vehicles, as well as ensure to get enough sleep before embarking on any journey. In education, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, has threatened to resume its strike, which was suspended on June 10, 2021, if the federal government fails to meet its demand within 1 month. The union's president, Anderson Ezibe, disclosed this to journalists in Yola, Adamawa State Capital, during its 102nd National Executive Council meeting. Ezibe, who said ASUP was close to resuming the suspended industrial strike action, noted that the union will reconvene in 1 month to take the decision.
The reality is that with this resolution, we are not only updating the public with respect to the status of our engagement with the government, but we are also informing the government and indeed members of the public that we are indeed very close, very close to resuming that suspended action. In fact, if the current status prevails in the next 1 month, then what it means is that a resumption of that particular strike action will be a very serious issue for consideration. And of course, and that is why our union's National Executive Council, which is the only organ of the union empowered to declare a strike action, is going to reconvene after 1 month. After 1 month, to take this very important decision.
Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory and Chairman, FCT Judicial Service Committee, Justice Hussein Ababa, says access to justice for victims of rights violation has been an issue of grave concern in Nigeria. He said this during a human rights sensitization and legal training workshop on tuberculosis organized by Lawyers Alert, a non-profit and human rights organization. Hamid Oyegbade filed in this report.
The sensitization and legal training workshop on tuberculosis in Abuja focused on the vital roles of the court and lawyers in promoting human and health rights. The Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory and Chairman of FCT Judicial Service Committee, Justice Hussaini Baba Yusuf, who was represented by a judge of the FCT High Court, Justice Olukayode Adeniyi, said international human rights law has gone a step further to provide for the right to health through inclusive and resilient healthcare for all.
To sensitize our judicial officers for the need to enforce such rights when such matters come before them on discrimination against citizens on grounds of health, and this will, like I said, a judge will not fabricate a case, but The lawyers also need to be more proactive. Lawyers should be more sensitized to take up such matters.
The director and the national coordinator of National Tuberculosis, Leprosy and Buruli Ulcer Control Program at the Federal Ministry of Health, Dr. Chukwuma Anyike, said the program was aimed at making Nigeria free of tuberculosis.
The National Tuberculosis, Leprosy and Buruli Ulcer Control has demanded to make Nigeria free of tuberculosis, to save lives, to kick out tuberculosis in the country. And all what we have been doing is basically on two strategies: improve on prevention, improve on the diagnostic, and improve on our treatment.
The president of Lawyers Alert, Mr. Rami Mum, called on the executive and legislative arm of governments in the country to ensure adequate funding for the initiatives and programs put in place to end tuberculosis in Nigeria.
Our parliamentarians, the National Assembly, including the executive, need to channel more resources into TB work. We need to resource TB work. It's about allocations, it's about implementations, it's about release of funding and all of that.
Also speaking, the Executive Director, the Briche Health Development Center, Mrs. Deborah Oguche Ike, said tuberculosis survivors and those undergoing treatment should be at the forefront of the advocacy and efforts to end tuberculosis.
We already know stigma and discrimination is a huge barrier to ending TB in Nigeria. And I feel that one of the very, very basic and important as well as strategic approach to ending TB really is putting TB affected communities, for example, TB survivors and TB people on treatment at the forefront of the response.
Operators of radio stations in Kano are being forced to shut down transmission due to the increase in cost of diesel. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that some of these stations are transmitting less than 10 hours a day. His report.
According to chief executive officers of various radio stations in Kano, the cost of diesel is gradually becoming a threat to broadcast media industry, having depends on diesel to transmit 24 hours.
On behalf of the private media, or because I'm talking on behalf of the media, private media organizations, to ask the government please to come in. Because if these things has not been done, if anything has not been done to this, maybe likely the operational capabilities of the media, especially private, must come down.
For those who are transmitting 24 hours, the airtime has been slashed down to between 10 to 18 hours. Others say they are spending nothing less than 500,000 naira every 48 hours to buy diesel.
Considering that and then running that every day for the period that the grid was down, and then even after the grid came up, the power was not fully restored. So we were getting maybe like 2-3 hours a day. So when you consider that and then consider the cost of diesel, where you're buying a litre at almost 700 naira, it's not funny.
With about 20 private radio stations, Kano has over 2,000 people working in various radio stations who are now facing threats of being laid off if the situation persists.
We, the Express Radio Management, has sat last 2 weeks ago. We discussed on this very important issue, the higher price of these diesels. And instead of us to think of doing away with our staffs and other obligations, our able managing director, Alhaji Ali Babu Okasa, has given us time and given us the opportunity to please discuss this very issue subsequently, because he wanted us to advise the management to all the station. How do we find other ways to reduce the cost of this diesel?
Unless adequate electricity is supplied and the cost of diesel is reduced in a way these radio stations can afford, there is likelihood of permanent shutdown by some transmission stations in Kano State. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
And finally, away from Nigeria, United Nations envoy Hans Grunberg says the warring sides in Yemen's 7-year conflict have agreed to a 2-month nationwide truce, starting with the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Grunberg said the 2-month truce would come into effect on Saturday and could be renewed with the consent of the two parties. He said the parties accepted to halt all offensive military air, ground and maritime operations inside Yemen and across its borders, and agreed for fuel ships to enter into Hodeidah ports and commercial flights to operate in and out of Sana'a airport to predetermined destinations in the region. The unbrokered deal on Friday between a Saudi-led coalition and the rebel Houthi group aligned with Iran is the most significant step yet towards ending a conflict that has killed tens of thousands and pushed millions into hunger. The last coordinated cessation of hostilities nationwide was during peace talks in 2016. And that's it on Trust News Update. Don't forget to follow us across all our social media platforms. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Thanks for watching.